observations from the environments that we observed, the people we spoke to, and the resources we engaged with, was this sense of cultural leadership isn't about one person. It isn't probably about two people, but this idea that cultural leadership spans the organization. I think from an archetype perspective, there's three elements. So we notice the sponsors, and it's important that you have that senior or authority figure sponsoring the culture, and that might be ownership, that might be someone operating at board level, but almost giving permission for the articulated culture to operate in the way that you aspire it to do so. You then have your architects who, as the term might suggest, would be considered design specialists. So they're designing the culture, they're engaging with the various individuals that inhabit the culture to understand what is the articulated culture, what are the values, and ultimately they're a critical role model. An example that we used in the paper would be someone like a Toto Wolff from the Mercedes Formula One team. And then significantly, and sort of talks to some of the challenges that were highlighted again, the idea of guardians, and guardians can be many in number. The term sort of leading from shadows, borrowed from the book by Richard Heitner, looking at the consigliere, and the idea of the number twos in organizations, or those individuals who might not be operating in the architect role, but leading from the shadows, ensuring that the articulated culture permeates every interaction, and is willing to ensure there is absolute alignment with what the sponsors are talking to, but importantly playing a role of ensuring that the architects and sponsors have a level of bandwidth to attend to the culture. And that term bandwidth, David Jones from Saracens spoke about really, really nicely in the paper, this idea of having the bandwidth to attend to the culture. And also the guardians play a really critical role in sharing the reality of the culture. I mentioned the head teacher that spoke about his culture today. It'd be interesting for him to, and I'm sure he does, see the culture through the lens of the teacher, see the culture through the lens of the pupil, and the various guardians that exist in that regard. Importantly, alignment between the sponsors, architects, and guardians is critical, as you might expect. And a couple of case studies that we nod to in the paper, certainly the Lego case study is a really fascinating one, and we'll touch on that in a short while in further detail around their investment in leadership. So they have something called the Leadership Playground, which is sort of partly introduced to ensure that individuals have the capability and the capacity to lead at varying levels of the organisation. And then the example of England Cricket at the bottom there, and probably in many ways the sponsor, architect, and guardians of those organisations featuring in that particular photo. So Rob Key, the managing director, Brendan McCullum, the head coach, who might be considered an architect for playing in a really free way in which England Cricket currently are, and Ben Stokes, who would be sort of the chief guardian in many respects as the captain of the team.